Zach, we're live, and Zach, I think you're on mute. Let's try that. Nope, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? All right. Cool. I know Zach's getting his microphone working, so let's give him a second. Nope, can't hear you now. Let me see if there's a setting on this end. No, looks like everything should be all set on this end. All right, well, Zach's looking to get his microphone running. We might as well get started. All right, let's see. Let's let him back in. Let's see if that's any better.
Anything?
Hey, there he is.
All right, there we go.
Awesome, buddy. Great to see you again. I feel like I just talked to you, which I guess maybe I just did. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending this live. Zach, today we are talking about what?
Momentum. Talking
Yes.
about momentum.
It's actually one of my favorite topics. When people think about the ways that we grow companies and a lot of the results that we achieve with our clients, the really foundation of everything that we do begins with the whole concept of momentum. And so today I want to talk about momentum and what it is and how specifically to leverage it for business growth. Now, when we think about the problems, right? The problems with momentum often is that people think that, or I shouldn't say the problems with the momentum, the problem with the way that most people approach growing a business is they turn around and they're always trying to do something new. I said, all right, well, this isn't working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try a webinar strategy. I saw on Facebook, somebody said that, you need to do, this strategy. So I'm going to do that. And then when that doesn't work, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to do that and so forth. What ends up happening is they spend so much time starting from scratch, starting from an area where there is no momentum, that it becomes a very, very inefficient way to achieve growth. They're spending more time, they're spending more money. Remember what Newton's law is, Zach?
Which one?
No, that's true. I guess there's many.
Yes, I do know. I recall which one you're referring to.
And which is what?
An object at rest stays at rest.
Right. So an object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion. And so when we really think about it, when people are growing a business and they're starting from something from scratch, there's no motion there. And so that's why it takes a heck of a lot more energy, a heck of a lot more time and resources to put it in motion. So before I continue, any questions or anything about that you want to add, Zach?
I'd add that this is probably going to be for the companies who've had some success, who've gotten past, like the early stage, have revenue, have leads, have, sales, have, a variety of things. They have a foundation in place, right?
Yeah.
So this may not make as much sense if you're just starting out, which isn't really the companies that we typically speak with, who might be tuning in anyway, but just wanted to give that kind of caveat. Because as you said early on, you're trying to generate that momentum. Whereas here, we're going to talk about how do we leverage it and assuming there's already momentum in the business.
It's a really good point. And that's often why it's a lot harder to go from zero to your first million than it is to go from your first million to your next million, or even for that matter, for your first million to 10 million. Because that going from 0 to 1 million is all about trying to really build that momentum. And then once you have that momentum, it's a lot easier to grow beyond that. So the way that I like to illustrate momentum is camping. Zach, you ever been camping?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah. So the old way that people would start a fire when you go camping is you take these two sticks, you rub these two sticks together.
I've never done that.
Believe it or not, I did do some SEER training back in the day.
Okay, yeah.
SEER training, and we, I actually did have to do that.
Nice.
So I could tell you that it actually, it takes a lot of energy. And when you're building that fire, you're just going to spend more time, more energy trying to rub those two sticks together just to be able to create a little bit of a red ember. right? And you get that red ember. And then from there, what do you have to do with it? You got to nurture it, right? You got to nurture that red ember. You maybe put like a little bit of pine bark, some, dry pine needles, you're blowing on it until you get a flame.
Right. You're just trying to build it from like, one stage to the next.
Yeah. And then once you get that flame, then you put more stuff on the flame and more stuff in the flame. Then in the very beginning, that little red ember is very easy to extinguish. And the flame, now you got a flame. Now even still, it's easy to extinguish. You got to be real careful, protect it from the wind and so forth. And then you get a fire, and now you really got something going. And at that point, you can start throwing logs on it, and then the fire turns into a huge fire. And now it doesn't matter if there's torrential downpours, if you could do whatever you want, and it is really difficult to take that fire down. Come up from Sacramento, I think you understand what I'm talking about, Zach. You guys out in California have had your share of wildfires.
That's for sure. Yeah, and it just takes off. That is one of the one things that, having seen it up close now, that I don't think you can fully embrace, but like, and it's a good analogy for businesses and how it can just like spread so quickly, and that momentum can really just take off, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with a fire where it just bam, and before you know it, it's this massive fire. So yeah, no, I mean, then I think the analogy is spot on.
And that's what we're doing. So when we look at how are we going to grow a business and how are you going to grow a business, one of the things I want you to pay attention to is where all the red embers are in your business. You have so many opportunities. If you're already generating traffic, leads, and sales, you have areas of momentum. You have red embers. Now it's about building and nurturing and creating a flame and then a fire and so forth. And if you want to see this in action, I encourage you to pull up the stock chart of almost every major company that you can think of. And what you're going to see is, for a while, those companies are prodding along like this, and they're prodding along like this, and they're building momentum. They're testing, they're tweaking, they're trying to figure out what works. And all of a sudden there's an inflection point, boom, and it takes right off. This is part of the reason why Richard Branson made a comment one time, and he says, when you know how to leverage momentum, you're going to leave your competitors trailing in your wake. And whether it's Berkshire Hathaway, Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft, you're going to see the same thing. They're going to prod along like this, and then all of a sudden, just inflection point, boom. And the same thing happens with small businesses. There's so many times where, we may work with a small business, and then all of a sudden, we're optimizing, we're systematizing, we're innovating, and then all of a sudden, just boom. And, it's a matter of, millions. And then momentum, when it's growing that fast, you got a different challenge, right? And it's all about scalability and trying to build the team quick and so forth. Another example of momentum was a client that we were working with. Client came to us originally, much like many people who are running businesses right now, and those of you who are watching this who are saying, you know what, hey, I just need more leads. So he says, I need more leads, but if a doctor, if a patient goes into a doctor, Zach, and the patient says, look, here's the thing, I got this issue, I need you to prescribe 2 pills, and he prescribes 2 pills to you without doing a full analysis, it's malpractice, right?
Yeah. I mean, just look at me. If my doctor listened to me all the times I complained about about like needing shoulder surgery or something, I probably would have had a lot more operations, right? So you're right though. Like you gotta do the diagnosis.
And so that's what we did. We said, well, before we look at more leads, let's take a look at everything else that's going on inside the business. And as we dug a little bit deeper, what we found is that he had tons of leads. But the red ember in his business was what he was doing actually with those leads. And so his revenue per lead at the time was $7.20. So for every lead he got, he made $7.20. And so we said, well, what if we made those emails better? What if we could show you how to make those emails better? What if we could show you ways in which you could optimize that back end more? And within 1 month, this is how quickly momentum can take off. Within 1 month, he went from $7.20 to $16.42. So he better than doubled his month-to-month revenue in 1 month. Didn't cost him any more money in marketing, didn't cost him any more effort other than just making those emails a little bit better. So it went from 720 to 1642 in just over a year. He went from 720 to $46.09 per lead. Put him on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list for the first time, in his career, and a bucket list item, which is great. That's leveraging momentum. If we started and said, well, why don't we build a webinar funnel? Why don't we do this or that? We wouldn't have the same effect. You start from scratch.
So let me stop you there real quick. Why do you think that is? Because I think we talk to so many different business owners, entrepreneurs, and it's not just like a not knowing what you don't know sort of thing, but it's almost like it's not the cool, sexy thing to do to try to optimize and improve. It's also kind of a pain in the neck. I mean, we're doing it ourselves, right? We're going through looking at our own efforts and trying to optimize, and it's not the most glamorous or fun thing to do initially. I mean, once you start seeing the dollars come in, you're like, this, yeah, I don't know why we ignored this for so long. Yep. But, why do you think that is?
Well, you just hit the nail on the head, because we're programmed to believe that it's just a lot more exciting and sexy. As a marketer, it makes it so much easier for us to sell, hey, you know what you're missing is this 3-step formula for this. You know what you're missing? You're missing this funnel. It is the funnel that does this. And that's why what you'll find is a lot of the people they get trapped into buying funnels and systems and whatnot. You're going to find growth hacks. Most of them are going to fall between the 5 and 6 figure range. But when you look at those 7-figure businesses, the 8 figures, multiple of 8, the 9 figures, find out how many of those people are turning around and buying all those programs. You're going to see that doesn't happen, very often, or if at all. Yeah. Because they've actually realized that the fastest, easiest, most efficient way to grow a business is to leverage that momentum. And so they really ultimately become data scientists. Mm-hmm. They look at everything. They leave nothing up for chance. They're trying to figure out, okay, what are all the different ways that we're generating traffic? What are the sources of that traffic? Of the conversions that we're having? What are the sources of the conversions? What's working in that process? What's not working in that process? How do we do more of what's working? With our existing customer base, are they buying as much as they should, as often as they should? If not, what are some of the things that we can do in order to tweak that process?
I think it's almost like, it's just a mindset shift of how you run your business in general. Yeah. Right. It just overall, if we're talking about something momentum, we make it seem like it's just like, a strategy or even just a tactic, but really, I think it's just like how you approach your business and taking like a more scientific approach, as you said, or just like this experimental. Okay, we know this is working. These are my numbers. I know this, and I know you're going to get to that in a little bit with some of the other stuff. But I think that's the important part to take away from this, is that like it's not going to be perfect right away, and you're going to uncover a lot of stuff. But just committing to that like long term, culture of like, this is how we're going to operate as a business, and we're going to constantly be optimizing and improving and following the data. Then you'll see that momentum, especially just like click and take off. And then to the counterpoint to what you're saying earlier, some of those companies, you see some of them kind of fall off. It's because they are veering from that, right? They're going off the path. They're doing this, they're, whatever. But I just wanted to point that out because I think it's important to acknowledge that it's like a culture shift within the business.
Well, like we talked about earlier, right? An object in motion stays in motion. An object at rest stays at rest. So when you're riding the train of momentum and the train of motion, you're going to get results that much faster. I mean, we're entering into a new quarter. And so you and me and Stephanie and Joe, we got together earlier this afternoon, and we're going through the exact same exercise, because realize we're sitting in the trenches with you guys, right? We're growing companies and our own company at the same time. And so we're looking at all the different sources of momentum. We've literally making sure we have every stone, turned, and looking over everything to figure out like where are we going to dedicate our efforts over the next quarter that's going to make the biggest amount of impact by leveraging what we're already doing. and making us perform so much better. And that became the topic of our discussion when we're looking to grow the back half of the year even bigger than the front half of the year. It's all about what needs to happen in order to do everything that we're doing that much better. And it's a focus on the numbers, it's a focus on the metrics. And so that part gets really exciting because as Zach and Stephanie and Joe and myself were sitting there just going through the numbers, all of a sudden we had one idea after another idea after another idea after another idea after another idea. We're not short of ideas. Any single one of them is going to have a meaningful impact in the revenue of the company. Now we just have to prioritize and say, of all these ideas, which one's going to be the best? You got to do the same thing with your own companies. Just when you look under the hood of your own companies, when you look at the areas of momentum, when you meticulously understand where your numbers at, you're going to see more and more and more ways to turn up the dial, add fuel to the fire, and experience that growth. Give you one other example. We had a client, they were doing about $5 million a year. And the interesting thing is they're doing pretty well. $5 million a year. They're consistently growing. They just wanted to know, what can we do to grow even faster? And so at 5 million, they got a number of different clients. So what we looked at was, well, you're doing a lot of things right, but are your clients buying as much as they should be from you and as often as they should be? And because they were only really buying one primary product, one of the things that we suggested is, what can we bolt on that would help them experience a better result and at the same time give you recurring revenue? We know that existing clients are far more likely to buy more from you than trying to attract a new one. So what if we were just to do that? He went from 5 million in original revenue to adding an additional 6 million in recurring revenue just by adding backend. So like where most people focus right off the bat on, how do I get more leads? How do I get more leads? How do we get more leads? When you're leveraging the momentum and how do we do more of what's already working, you can turn those opportunities, like we talked about earlier, the gentleman who went from $7.20 revenue per lead to $46.09 a year and a half later. Or, this other company that went from 5 million and then bolted on another 6 million MRR.
Wow.
We have opportunities everywhere.
I always think like this is an example. Of course, it's not limited to these three in terms of like the momentum or the optimization side of things. But like I think, Jay Abraham had which is like the godfather of like direct response marketing, right? He said there's 3 ways to grow a business. And I think, as you touched on a couple times, most businesses focus on number one, which is, how do I get more clients? How do I get new clients? And those who are typically struggling are just kind of constantly burning that wheel, and they have no other back end set up. So then every month is just like, oh, pardon my language, but oh shit, we need to, we have to get new clients, right? Like we just got to get more people through the door. And so then it just starts every month and it just keeps going. And of course you want to have those systems in place to generate new income, new revenue, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the other two that we've touched on are, so getting back to the 3 ways, number one was the new clients. Number 2 is increasing the transaction value. And you've taught me this, so I know I'm telling you this, but it's more for the crowd because I know you know this like in your sleep. And then increasing that transaction frequency, right? So just getting them to keep coming back. So those 2 examples that you already touched on with momentum, but I think we often overlook that as entrepreneurs and founders of just more growth, and we're just looking for that number 1 when number 2 and 3 can unlock that growth that you're looking for.
For sure. And there's, we could literally go over opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. Something as simple as, and everybody's experience is something as simple as going into, the movie theater, and you buy a soda or whatnot, and right away they offer you a popcorn, and then so you're like, all right, yeah, I'll grab, I'll take a small, and they're like, for $1 more, we can upgrade you to a medium, and it's like, oh well, for a dollar,
I'm already spending 23
not?
bucks, so
Yeah, exactly. Like, why not? Would you like any candy with that? So by asking those questions, or McDonald's, I'll take a burger. Would you like fries with that? It's like, well, okay. And Hudson News, people were buying snacks at the counter, and they started asking a question: would you like a bottle of water? And they sold far more water. But notice that these companies are adding millions and millions and millions to their bottom line, not sitting there around the boardroom going, what do we need to do to get more clients as their primary growth strategy? They're adding so many more things. And because we specialize in working with 7, 8 figure businesses, and we have several doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year, at the end of the day, our core focus is building sustainable growth month after month after month after month. And if turn a page from the playbook of the most successful companies in the world, and you're going to see leveraging momentum is a core foundational element. But you're only going to be able to understand how to leverage momentum if you know every area of your business and you know exactly what's working, what lead source that they're coming from, what page they're visiting, where they're exiting. So you can also plug different holes. That's another area to leverage momentum, fix different problems, and you're going to find growth to be a lot more efficient for you. All right, man.
Which is kind of like the name of the game at the moment, right? Because costs are up. So we're looking at how do we be more efficient, not only effective, but efficient, sustainable, long-term growth. Certainly, there are factors working against us right now, but this will not always be the case, or maybe will, but we need to adapt and be more strategic. And that's what this workshop is all about.
This is actually one of the major reasons why I love working and growing companies in a recessionary environment, because in bull markets rather, growing is easy. You don't have to be too strategic. And a lot of times that's when you get bloat, you get a little bit more inefficient because you just turn the dial a little bit and everything comes a lot easier than recessionary points. Mistakes get punished. And so it gives you the time to really do the things you should have been doing in bull markets, where you really just all of the numbers and you lay it all out and you just become so much better, so much. And by leaner, I'm talking about more effective. And then when the market turns around, boom, you are growing so much faster than your competitors. It's awesome. And you're capturing more market share. And again, it's one of the reasons why, perhaps our readers, people are probably here because they've heard all our success stories and they've heard the market leaders that we've created. So, all right, cool. So that wraps up this week's live. Next week, we're going to dive into a totally different topic. I believe we're going to be leveraging momentum somewhere tied within social media and whatnot, I believe. We'll have to tap into our content manager and see what's on the docket. Of course, a lot of what is the topics that we covered comes from you. So leave us a chat about different questions that you have, and we'll go ahead and we'll make sure that we put it in the slot for some point in the future. If you like it, hit like, subscribe, whatever all that stuff is, and we'll see you next time. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.